All right, you ready to unlock your inner expert?
I'm ready.
Today's deep dive is all about taking what you know and turning it into something powerful. A thriving business, a dedicated following, you name it.
Sounds good. What are we diving into today?
We're diving into Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson, and trust me, this book is packed with strategies you won't find in your typical business class.
I'm intrigued. Brunson always has an interesting perspective.
What's fascinating about Brunson's approach is that he throws out the whole "you need a fancy degree" myth.
Right, he's all about the real-world application, not just theory.
He jumps right in with this idea that anyone, yes, even you, could be an expert.
Yeah,
It's about tapping into that unique knowledge you have and sharing it with the world.
I like that. It's about owning what you know and sharing it with others.
And the best part is, your expertise doesn't have to be some groundbreaking discovery.
Oh, good point.
Brunson actually tells this hilarious story about how he accidentally became a potato gun expert. Potato guns. It just goes to show that expertise can come from the most unexpected places.
Potato guns. Huh, I never would have guessed that would be a path to expertise.
Exactly. Brunson's not saying you need to go out and build a potato empire, but it highlights a crucial point. Everyone has valuable knowledge to share.
I guess that's true, but I still haven't figured out my potato gun moment.
He breaks down the playing field into 3 core markets where expertise thrives: health, wealth, and relationships, areas everyone can relate to. But here's the twist he stresses: getting HYPR specific within those markets.
So pick a niche within one of those areas, huh?
Okay, let's unpack this niche concept because Brunson is all about it. He doesn't want you to be just another face in the crowd.
I can see how that would be key to building a following.
He wants you to find that sweet spot, that unique angle that makes you stand out.
So if you're in health, for example, instead of being a general wellness coach, you'd focus on something specific, like stress management for entrepreneurs.
Exactly. And what's key here is that it's not about competing with others in your field.
I like that. It's about finding your own lane instead of trying to outrun everyone else.
Brunson actually encourages finding ways to complement them, to offer something that fills a gap or provides a fresh perspective. It's about carving out your own space where you can shine.
I'm all about finding that unique voice and perspective.
So think about this. What makes your take on things different? What specific problem can you solve? Or what unique perspective can you offer?
This is where I need to do some serious reflection.
This is how you start to pinpoint that niche and build an audience that's genuinely interested in what you bring to the table.
And that's the goal, right? To build that passionate, engaged audience.
And that's where things get really interesting. Identifying your niche isn't just about feeling good. It's about attracting a dedicated audience, a tribe that resonates with your message and is eager to learn from you. It's the foundation for building something bigger than just yourself.
It's about creating something that has impact, not just being another voice in the crowd.
But we'll dive into that in the next part.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've nailed down the niche, that special something you bring to the table. But Brunson doesn't stop there.
Oh no, what else does he have in store for us?
He takes us on a bit of a wild ride with this idea of building a mass movement. Now, before you picture rallies and megaphones, hear me out.
Mass movement. Okay, I'm listening. This sounds intense.
I know, right? It sounds a little crazy.
It does.
But Brunson breaks down this concept in a way that's both fascinating and applicable.
Well, that's good. Practical advice is always welcome.
He analyzes historical figures who, for better or worse, built massive followings. Think everyone from, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Hitler to Jesus.
Whoa, that's quite a range.
It is, isn't it?
So is he suggesting we, start a cult or something?
Definitely not. The point isn't to emulate their actions, but to understand the psychology behind their influence.
Okay, that makes more sense. So what's the takeaway here? What did these figures have in common?
And here's where it gets really juicy. Brunson pinpoints these shared traits, these core elements that fuel their movements. And one of the most surprising takeaways, and get ready for this, is the power of polarity.
Polarity, like positive and negative.
Exactly. Brunson argues that taking a strong stance, even if it ruffles some feathers, is crucial for attracting a truly dedicated audience.
So you're saying it's better to be a little controversial. That's not what they teach in PR school.
Well, Brunson's point is that when you're clear about your values and aren't afraid to express them, even if it sparks debate, you attract people who are genuinely invested in what you have to say.
Makes sense. People want authenticity, even if they don't always agree. So how does this movement translate to the online world?
This is where Brunson gets incredibly practical. He's a huge advocate for building a strong online presence. Think podcasts like this one, engaging social media content, even just consistently putting your ideas out there. He actually suggests publishing something every single day.
Every single day? Wow, that's a lot.
Every single day. I mean, that's got to be tough, right?
It's definitely a commitment, but Brunson highlights how the act of creating and sharing regularly forces you to refine your thinking, find your voice, and get comfortable putting yourself out there. It's like building a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just about churning out content for the sake of it. It's about honing your craft.
Exactly. Consistency is key.
Speaking of getting your message across, let's talk about storytelling. Brunson dives deep into why stories are such powerful tools, and it's not just about entertainment.
Right. Brunson argues that stories bypass our logical defenses and speak directly to our emotions, which makes them so powerful. He uses the classic example of Little Red Riding Hood. We all know it, we've heard it a million times, but it still works.
It really does. What is it about these simple stories with their relatable characters and universal themes that are so captivating, they just stick with us long after we've heard them?
It's fascinating. And Brunson backs this up with research. He cites studies analyzing the language of successful communicators, even, believe it or not, Donald Trump's speeches. Turns out they're written at a 3rd to 4th grade reading level.
Wow, are you serious? That's kind of mind-blowing.
It is, but it also kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, the simpler the language, the more accessible your message becomes to a wider audience.
Exactly. It's about connecting with people, not confusing them with jargon. And to help you communicate complex ideas in a way that resonates, Brunson introduces this technique he calls the kinda like bridge.
Kinda like bridge. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's all about using analogies and metaphors to connect your ideas to something familiar. So let's say you're trying to explain a complex concept like blockchain technology. Instead of getting bogged down in technical jargon, you could use a kind of like bridge to compare it to something relatable, like a digital ledger that everyone can access.
Ah, okay, so you're basically building a bridge between the unfamiliar and something your audience already understands.
Exactly. And by making those connections, you're not just explaining, you're helping your audience understand and remember.
It's about making it stick.
Exactly.
And then Brunson takes us even deeper with this idea of the epiphany bridge.
Now, this is where things get really interesting.
It sounds kind of mystical, but what is it exactly?
It's actually a strategic storytelling framework where you're crafting your stories in a way that leads your audience to an aha moment, a moment of realization or clarity.
So you're using the story to guide them toward a specific insight or takeaway.
Precisely. You're not just telling a story for the sake of it, you're using it as a tool to create a powerful aha moment for your audience that makes them more receptive to your message.
It's about making your message hit home.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about finding your niche, building a movement, mastering storytelling. But let's be real, we also want our expertise to translate into something tangible, something that can actually sustain us, right?
Of course. We all got to pay the bills, right?
Exactly. And Brunson addresses that head on. He challenges the idea that wanting to profit from your knowledge is somehow wrong.
It's about finding that balance between sharing your knowledge and getting compensated for the value you provide.
He tells this great story about how he used to invite some friends to his events for free while others paid. And guess what? The ones who paid were the ones who actually implemented what they learned and saw real results. It's about having skin in the game.
Makes sense. When people invest in your knowledge, they're more likely to value it and take action.
It shows they're serious about learning and growing.
Exactly. And one of the strategies Brunson recommends is creating a stack, essentially bundling your offerings to provide even more value and make them irresistible.
So instead of just offering one thing, you're giving your audience a package deal.
Exactly. Think about it. What could you offer in a stack? Maybe it's a combination of ebooks, online courses, and one-on-one coaching sessions. It's about giving your audience options that cater to their specific needs and learning styles.
And to wrap things up, Brunson emphasizes the importance of repetition. Find what works and keep doing it.
Don't reinvent the wheel every time. If it's working, stick with it. He uses the analogy of a Broadway show. They don't change the script every night just because it's been running for a while. If it works, they keep refining it and performing it.
That's a great analogy. You got to trust the process, stay consistent, and keep showing up for your audience.
Exactly. And I think so much of what Brunson talks about boils down to challenging those limiting beliefs that hold us back from stepping into our potential.
He encourages us to embrace the idea that we all have something valuable to offer, to find our voice, build our tribe, and create real impact.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Making a difference and sharing your knowledge with the world.
That's a wrap on today's deep dive into expert secrets. We've covered a lot of ground, but the journey doesn't end here. Remember to subscribe to the show, and we'll be back next week with another deep dive into the world of expert entrepreneurship.